Welcome to Listen and Learn English, where you can improve your English at your own pace. Our narrators are all native English speakers, and their words are displayed so that you can read along and practice your English vocabulary. It's a great way to learn, so sit back, relax, and let's get into the video. The Wonderful Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum. Chapter 1. The Cyclone. Dorothy lived with her Uncle Henry and Aunt Em on the wide flat prairies of Kansas. Uncle Henry was a hard-working farmer, and Aunt Em, his wife, kept their small household running. Their house was simple and bare, just one room made of wood hauled from far away. It had 4 plain walls, a roof, and a floor. Inside was a rusty old stove for cooking, a cupboard for dishes, a rough table, a few chairs, and 2 beds. The larger one belonged to Uncle Henry and Aunt Em, while Dorothy had a small one tucked into a corner. There was no attic, and the only shelter from storms was a little dugout in the earth, a cyclone cellar, reached through a trapdoor in the floor and a ladder leading down into the ground. When Dorothy stood in the doorway and looked out, she could see nothing but the endless flat prairies stretching in every direction until it met the sky. There were no trees, no hills, and no other houses, just the dull, dry land, baked by the sun into cracked grey earth. Even the grass had turned grey, scorched by the relentless heat. Once the house had been painted, but the sun had faded and peeled away all colour, leaving the building just as grey and lifeless as the land. Aunt Em hadn't always been so worn and weary. She had arrived as a young woman, full of life and colour, but the wind and sun had drained the brightness from her cheeks and the sparkle from her eyes. Now her face was pale and serious, and she rarely smiled. When Dorothy, an orphan, had first come to live with them, her cheerful laugh had startled Aunt Em so much she clutched her chest in shock. She still seemed amazed that Dorothy could laugh at all. Uncle Henry never smiled. He worked from dawn until dark, always serious and silent. His beard, his clothes, even his boots all seemed grey, just like the land around him. But Dorothy wasn't completely alone in her joy. She had Toto, a small black dog with silky fur and lively little eyes. He was full of energy and mischief, and he made her laugh every day. His cheerful presence was a comfort and kept her from becoming as dull and colourless as everything else. But today was different. There was no laughter or play. Uncle Henry sat outside, eyes fixed on the sky, which had turned an ominous shade of grey. Dorothy stood at the doorway, holding Toto, while Aunt Em busied herself with the dishes. From the north they heard a distant moan of the wind, and the long grass bent in waves as the storm approached. A sharp whistling sound rose from the south, and Dorothy saw the grass rippling from that direction too. Uncle Henry suddenly jumped up. "A cyclone's coming, Em," he shouted, running off toward the barns to check on the animals. Aunt Em dropped her work and ran to the door. One look at the sky was enough. "Hurry, Dorothy! Get to the cellar!" she cried. Toto leaped from Dorothy's arms and darted under the bed. Dorothy rushed to grab him while Aunt Em flung open the trapdoor and scrambled down into the dark hole below. Dorothy finally caught Toto and started across the room, but just then a terrible howl of wind shook the house violently and she fell to the floor. Then something incredible happened. The house began to spin, slowly at first, then faster. It rose up into the air as if it were a feather caught in the wind. The house had landed at the exact centre of the cyclone, where the wind lifted it higher and higher, swirling it in place. Inside, Dorothy clung to the floor, feeling as though she were floating gently, like a baby rocked in a cradle. It was dark and the wind roared outside, but she wasn't hurt. Toto ran around barking in confusion, and at one point nearly fell through the open trap door. Dorothy saw one of his ears poking up and quickly pulled him back in, closing the trap behind him. Hours passed. At first, Dorothy was terrified, certain the house would crash down, but nothing happened. The motion was steady, the wind screamed on, but she began to feel calmer. Eventually she crawled to her bed and Toto curled up beside her. Despite the noise and the swaying of the house, Dorothy's eyes slowly closed and she drifted off into sleep. Chapter 2. The Meeting with the Munchkins. Dorothy awoke with a sudden jolt that shook the house so violently she would have been hurt had she not been lying on the bed. Startled, she gasped and looked around. Toto whined and nudged her face with his cold nose. Everything had gone still. The house no longer rocked or spun, and sunlight streamed through the window, lighting the room with golden warmth. She jumped out of bed with Toto at her heels and hurried to open the door. The sight that greeted her made her gasp in astonishment. Gone were the endless grey plains of Kansas. Instead, she stood at the edge of a land filled with breathtaking beauty. Green grass covered the ground in lush patches, while tall trees bore dazzling fruit. Bright flowers bloomed in vibrant clusters, and colourful birds fluttered and chirped joyfully in the branches. Not far off, a sparkling brook babbled cheerfully over smooth stones. It was like stepping into a dream. As she took in the stunning scenery, a group of people approached her. They were unlike anyone Dorothy had ever seen, neither tall like grown-ups nor small like children. They were about her height, but looked much older. 3 were men and 1 was a woman, all dressed in strange and vivid clothing. The men wore blue robes and tall, pointy hats trimmed with tiny bells that jingled with each step. The woman wore white, with a gown adorned in shining stars and a matching pointed hat. Her face was wrinkled, her hair nearly white, and her movements slow and stiff. They hesitated before coming close, whispering among themselves. Then the old woman stepped forward and gave a graceful bow. "Welcome, noble sorceress," she said gently. "We thank you for destroying the wicked witch of the East and freeing the Munchkins from her rule." Dorothy stared, puzzled. "But I haven't killed anyone," she replied nervously. "Your house did," said the woman, smiling. "Look, there are her feet." Dorothy turned to see 2 feet sticking out from beneath the house, clad in silver shoes. She let out a cry of horror. "Oh no! The house must have landed on her. What shall I do?" "There's nothing to do," the woman said calmly. "She was the wicked witch of the East. She enslaved the Munchkins for years. Her death means their freedom." "Who are the Munchkins?" Dorothy asked. "They are the people of this land, the eastern part of Oz. I am not one of them, though I am their friend. I come from the north. I am the Witch of the North." Dorothy gasped. "A witch? But I thought witches were all bad." "That's a common misunderstanding," said the woman. "There are only 4 witches in Oz. 2 are good, myself and the Witch of the South. The other 2, one in the east, now dead, and one in the west, are wicked." Dorothy explained that she had come from Kansas, where her Aunt Em said witches were only in fairy tales. The Witch of the North nodded thoughtfully. "Kansas must be a civilized land. In such places magic fades. But Oz is different. We're cut off from the rest of the world. Here, witches and wizards still live." She lowered her voice. "Oz, the great wizard, rules the Emerald City at the center of our land. He's the most powerful of all." At that moment the Munchkins cried out. The wicked witch's feet had vanished, leaving only the silver shoes. She picked up the shoes and handed them to Dorothy. "They are yours now. They hold a charm, though none of us know what it is." Dorothy took the shoes inside and placed them on the table. Then she asked, "Can you help me get back to Kansas?" The Munchkins and the witch looked at each other sadly. "Oz is surrounded by a deadly desert on all sides," one said. Dorothy began to cry, feeling lost and far from home. The Munchkins, moved by her tears, began to weep as well. The witch took off her pointed hat, balanced it on her nose, and counted. 1, 2, 3. The hat transformed into a slate with glowing white letters. "Let Dorothy go to the City of Emeralds." She handed the slate to Dorothy. "You must go to the Emerald City and ask Oz to help you." "Where is it?" Dorothy asked. "Exactly in the center of Oz. Follow the yellow brick road and it will lead you there. I cannot go with you, but I'll give you my kiss." She pressed her lips to Dorothy's forehead, leaving a bright mark. No one will dare harm you now." The Munchkins bowed and wished her well. The witch gave a final smile, spun 3 times on her heel, and vanished into the air. Toto barked in surprise, but Dorothy had expected such an exit. After all, she had just met a real witch. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please support us by giving us a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. We release new videos just like this one each week, so join us and listen to learn English.